So we're going to be checking out this video from the good brother O'Shea Duke Jackson. Tariq Nasheed destroys Kamala Harris supporters in 60 seconds. So let's check this out.
Kamala Harris will be the Democratic Party's presidential candidate at their national convention in Chicago next month. And boy, what a difference 4 to 5 years can make. She went from being a hostile presidential candidate that no one took serious to becoming the vice president and now the presidential candidate. And not to mention, she broke a presidential campaign record by raising $81 million on one day. Doesn't seem like Trump has the easiest road as he did with Biden. But then the question has been looming. Is Kamala Harris even black? This question was not even asked by me first. It was presented in a very interesting way by Kimberly Foster, who owns the popular blog For Harriet. And she had this to say.
Hey y'all, it's me, Kim. Hi, how are you doing? I'm good. Thank you for asking. Shout out to Janet. So obviously this video is going to be about Kamala Harris again. So if you watched my last video on Kamala, then you should know, hopefully if you made it to the end, which most of you did not, you should know that I am not on Team Kamala. I have huge reservations about her as a candidate. But one thing that I was not expecting was all of the people pushing back and saying that she is not black. Okay, that was a surprise. That was a surprise. And so many people commented telling me that she is not black that I had to take a step back and say, whoa, what am I missing here? Like, why do so many people believe this?
So even Kimberly Foster, a Harvard University graduate who has one of the best African-American lifestyle blogs for women in the country, didn't buy Kamala Harris even then, but she did some research on who her father was.
So let's take a look.
The thing to me about the so-called debt crisis is the striking amount of public attention it has received. Judging, for instance, from the amount of newsprint and other coverage by the media that has been devoted to it, I would say it ranks second only to the coverage given to Glasnost, Perestroika, and Gorbachev.
Now, he seems like he's black to me. We know that the mother is Indian. And this is important for today's topic because we know that Kamala Harris is not African American. When you look at Kamala Harris, you can definitely see that she looks black, but we will see that she's not. And let's talk about her education. Kamala Harris was educated at Howard University, then went to the University of California, Hastings Law School in San Francisco. And she worked her way up from a prosecutor, being very harsh on black criminals or black men, guilty or not, then working her way up to becoming a state senator, now vice president and presidential candidate. But the real thing that got Kamala Harris in trouble was this disgusting interview that she gave on The Griot. And it was titled, "Does Kamala Support Reparations for Black Americans?"
Do you support reparations for black people?
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing.
Why is it so hard for this lady to answer this question? I think the interviewer asked a pretty direct question, and this has turned into a whole explanation of all type of bullshit. She can't answer the question directly, but she will, I'm assuming, in a second.
Doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit black people. No.
Oh, you see that body language? If you didn't, we gonna see it again. Look at his body language.
Take into account that they're not starting at the same place, and they're not starting on equal
Body
footing.
language
It will
speaks more than
directly
you
benefit
actually say.
Black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this:
Look
any
at this.
policy
She's
that will
squirming
benefit
in,
black people will benefit all of society. Let's
and she's squirming in her chair, and she doing all of this type of stuff. But here we go, the coup de grace. Let's watch.
be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit black people. No.
Ooh, 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 ooh. She turned her head. That little bit of Jamaican she got in her from her dad, that came out. Mm-hmm. And y'all want to vote for this? I'm gonna be nice because I was about to say something.
No, because whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole in the country. Right?
Now let's get back to a small portion of this clip.
But no.
Did you guys hear that? She said no. Kamala Harris doesn't want to be specific when it comes to black Americans. And you heard it. She talked about 200 years of slavery. And even if she's not an African American, Jamaicans experienced slavery. And we're very close to the Jamaican community as African Americans. And she went to Howard University, but she still doesn't believe that African Americans deserve special rights. She believes a rising tide lifts all boats. Now, this was her in 2020 before she became the vice president for Joe Biden. And that leads me to today's conversation that's going on Twitter. One of my favorite singers of all time is the late great Isaac Hayes. I have like all the albums. One of my favorite albums that he put out was the Truck Turner soundtrack. But I digress. His son is actually different, Isaac Hayes III. And he posted this on Twitter. For your information to black men, black women are watching you try and tear down an overqualified black woman for trying to fulfill her purpose, break barriers, and accomplish her dreams. Your mothers, grandmothers, sisters, wives, and daughters would be ashamed seeing you act like this. You look small, insecure, and weak doing so. Then Tariq Nasheed got a hold of this on Twitter, and he said this: our FBA mothers, grandmothers, sisters, and wives did not make tandoori chicken when we were growing up. So we don't owe every slightly melanated person the same reverence as the FBA women in our families. Now, somebody else got involved in this, which was Lord Jamar. Now, we know that Lord Jamar has been very open about his criticism of hashtag ADOS or hashtag FBA. Both of them are the same communities, right? He believes that lineage ideology divides the black community too much. What does he say here? In response to Isaac Hayes, I respectfully disagree. And what makes her overqualified? She's not a black woman or a black woman, so let's not act like she's the same as our mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters. She has stated publicly she will not do anything specifically for black people. Trying to shame black men ain't it, bro. Let me talk about this. I agree definitely with these brothers, Lord Jamar and Tariq. And you guys know I'm a brother that's in the Pan-African community. You know,
I'm not even in that
agree with
community.
the FBAs, but I also agree with all of us coming together as one, although that may be difficult. And you're gonna encounter people like Kamala Harris who have used the African American community to come up. She's benefited off the African American community more so than she has the Jamaican community. But here she is still getting the support of black people who she told won't do anything for them. Black women raised like $1.5 million in a Zoom call for Kamala Harris. And the reason why is they know that Kamala Harris is good for black women, which is true. It's not good for black people, but for black women, Kamala Harris, it is a good look for black women, and they understand that, so they're investing. But at the same time, trying to shame black men into saying that, hey, that because she's a black woman, you need to vote for her, although she don't have your best interest. Well, let me look at it another way. If she was black and Indian, and she was over in the Indian community, would they accept her how she looks? Would they put their people in?
The only way she's good for black women is she promotes deleting of children. Oh, that sounds great for black women. She's very big on the LGBTQ lifestyle, which there's no promotion of procreation in that lifestyle. Oh, that's just great for black women. Tell me where she's good for black women. Besides, and here's the last brain cell. I want to see somebody in a high office that looks like me. Well, if they fucked up, I don't. I don't care what they look like. Put somebody in there that is going to do something for your community specifically, because they do everything for every other community specifically. They've actually done that. They have done that.
To voting for her, they won't. Where's the Indian community accepting Kamala Harris at all? They don't. You never hear about any Indian person talking about how much they love Kamala Harris. Because why? They don't look at her as the same. Because to them, she's not the same. Kamala Harris is very similar to the African American community. She understands it to a certain degree, but she's not in our group. And it's not that she's not in our group because of what she looks like. She definitely looks like she could be one of us. It's her mentality. And this is what I want to talk about. When we look at somebody like Louis Farrakhan, for an example, he is the minister. Nobody would ever dare call Louis Farrakhan a tether, okay? No one would ever call Malcolm X, who had a mother from Guyana, I believe, or it was one of those places in the Caribbean, a tether, a half tether. We could never call Stokely Carmichael, for the most part, a tether. Why? Because it was their mentality. Their mentality was black first. And if Kamala Harris had the mentality of a Louis Farrakhan, first of all, she wouldn't be vice president. They wouldn't let her up there. But if she had the mentality of us, we wouldn't be criticizing her. We would let her rock. And I would honestly believe that Tariq Nasheed would do the same thing. Tariq Nasheed and other brothers in the community, because we have seen people like this that come from the other parts of the black community that come in and they swing the bat for the black, and they want to see the black community be successful, the African American community be successful, and they join in with us in the fight. We give those people a pass. Like Louis Farrakhan, who was born to two Caribbean parents. We would consider Louis Farrakhan, we don't even check where his ancestry, where his history is. We know that he's one of us. That's how we look at him. And he's one of our teachers, one of our leaders, our thought leaders. But when it comes to Kamala Harris, she ain't talking black, so now people doing research. That's why you have so many hashtag FBA people asking the question, where are you from? Where are your people from? In other words, we don't really know. So what's your background? What's your information? Making sure that you really down with the team. But when you talking black and acting black, nobody actually says that. But you can't say that with her. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy O'Shea Jackson back at it again with an episode of Let's Learn.
So goodness gracious, O'Shea, just a great video. The things that you did, and there's just a whole lot that can be be said about this lady, this person, and the machine that she has behind her. They are ramping it up. They're going into overtime to ramp this lady up and present her to be something that she's not. And the attack, as far as this goes, is gonna be on black men. Don't fall for this shit, black men. Vote the way you're already thinking. Just vote the way you're already thinking. In a way that, of course, we're not a monolith, but I think there's some things we can come together on. Some things we can come together on and be a monolith for a certain issue. And this lady is an issue. So let's get it.